Hey everyone, finished watching the next Dino Thunder episode, Triassic Triumph, and after the last episode kind of impressed me and I enjoyed it, this one just kind of disappointed me. It's not bad, but I'll get to it in the summary. So Zeltrax is showing off his new evil White Ranger clone to Mesagog, as well as an evil monster version of Trent's Zord, the Terrorosaurus. At Haley's cyberspace, Cassidy is trying to interview an exchange student, Alexei. He's a soccer player, so that interests Connor, who tries to talk to him, but Alexei rushes off. Connor's a bit confused by this. Zeltrax attacks the Rangers with his White Ranger clone and Terrorosaurus. Trent joins the Rangers and the bad guys retreat. At the lab, Connor hot-headedly blames Trent for the clone. Dr. O takes Trent with him on a mission. The monster grows and attacks, and Connor wants to go fight it, despite Dr. O giving instructions to contact him first if anything happens. The Rangers go along with Connor, and the monster captures two of their Zords, which is really weird because they're two Zords they didn't bring with them. The monster captures their Megazord, too. Meanwhile, Tommy explains to Trent the mission. He wants Trent to use his chameleon power to get an ancient artifact from the waterfall in front of Ninja Ops. Something rises from the water, and Connor senses it. He can't go check it out as the monster begins another attack. It knocks them away and goes back to destroy the city. Connor gets another feeling and leaves to find Trent and Tommy. Connor grabs the artifact. It's a shield. To utilize it, each ranger must contribute their energy to it. Trent is weak from it, so Tommy takes him back to the lab with the shield while Connor rejoins the others. Tommy brings the shield to the Rangers and Connor asks Ethan and Kira to give him their power to use it. Connor activates Triassic mode and defeats the monster. Connor finally gets to talk to Alexei and they become friends. This episode is all over the place in focus. I don't know why it was considered necessary to insert a moral lesson into this episode, and apparently the writers weren't so sure either. Connor's lesson is pretty weak and completely separate from everything else going on. It doesn't even parallel with anything else going on. Connor's lesson is, I'm not even sure. Don't judge actions of someone you don't know, I guess? At the end of the episode, he apologizes to Alexei, but I don't know why. He was always polite to Alexei. It was only when Alexei wasn't around, Connor started thinking Alexei was conceited or something. It's all a misunderstanding. Alexei would try to get out of talking to people because he's insecure about his English-speaking ability. What does all that have to do with the Triassic power-up, or the evil White Ranger clone? Nothing. At times, it feels like maybe Alexei is being set up as a red herring for the new evil White Ranger, but that makes no sense because we saw Zeltrax last episode create the new evil White Ranger clone. And he specifically says there's no human component to it. It's a pure evil clone. It's separate from humans. So why in the world would Alexei be being set up to be, like, the person with that power? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why is this here? Connor acts weird throughout this episode, blaming Trent for the appearance of the new White Ranger. I mean, Connor has a habit of being hot-headed, but this was a stretch even for his character. Making this weirder is that this is never followed up on. Like the next point, when the Pterosaurus attacks, Connor disobeys Tommy's instructions and goes into battle anyway. This feels like it's setting up some kind of lesson for Connor, but Tommy doesn't even act surprised or acknowledge that Connor went against his instructions. Evil White Ranger clone is surprisingly absent for most of this episode. Most of the focus goes on the Pterosaurus monster. The monster capturing the Zords is strange, particularly the first two that the Rangers didn't even bring with them. The Zords aren't alive. Shouldn't these two be in the Brachiozord? Tommy didn't bother summoning the Brachiozord, so shouldn't all the Zords still be in it? How did Pterozord manage to get the Dimetrozord and Cephalozord when, what were they doing, out taking a walk or something? Like the Dragon Zord did in Mighty Morphin? Was this just something from the Japanese version they had no way to work around? Except they could work around it. Just say that the Rangers summoned those two Zords before they go into battle. Yeah, it'd be awkward and weird, but no more awkward and weird than, oh hey, our two Zords got captured. Why did we have them there in the first place? Trent's civilian power finally gets a name. It turns out he doesn't have invisibility, he has chameleon powers. Isn't that the same thing, basically? No, it's a little bit different. Whatever. I still think it's way too similar to Tommy's civilian power and visibility. And also kind of weird, this is the first time in... Like, this is over halfway through the series. Trent's been a character off and on since the beginning, so... Kind of weird it's only just now getting a name. Also, I don't know how him having chameleon powers affects him and Tommy retrieving the shield anyway. All they do is just hold up their morphers. It has nothing to do with their powers. Like, I guess it drains their powers or their ability to use their powers, but why is that relevant information to tell Trent at this point? I'm neutral on the Triassic power-up. It looks cool, but that's it. Nothing really deep to say about it. The Triassic mode is a lot more interesting behind the scenes. The writers, production team, whatever, they weren't sure if the Triassic Ranger was going to be a power-up or another Ranger. Cassidy and Devin were possibly going to be the new Ranger, depending on whether it turned out male or female. And I really wish they had gone in that direction and had the Triassic Ranger just be a separate Ranger. Maybe in future episodes it'd be too difficult to work around the Abba Ranger footage, but a lot of Dino Thunder has been original so far. I don't think it was outside their abilities to shoot new footage of the Triassic Ranger. It's also not like they're sticking really close to Abba Ranger's plots. They seem to actively go out of their way to ignore whatever Abba Ranger does. So, yeah, I totally think that if they really wanted to, they could have just made Cassidy or Devin, probably Devin because it's a male Ranger, yeah, just have the Triassic Ranger be separate. And if you're going to say that he looks too similar to Connor, well, Time Force had Wes and Eric and their suits were almost identical. Also, in this initial episode, I think nearly all the footage of the Triassic Ranger is American shot. So I'll have to keep an eye on that in the future to see like how much of the Japanese source footage they use of the Triassic Ranger. Like, I don't know, maybe right now it's all American footage for the introduction, but then later on there's stuff that they really wanted to use that they didn't want to, like, keep Connor out of or something. Also, I just like if Cassidy and Devin got more to do, because I like them a lot more than the Rangers. Speaking of which, this episode, Cassidy and Devin seem to be setting up something at the beginning, but then they're just completely dropped the rest of the episode, so that doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, this was a fascinating episode to analyze, but not so much to watch. It's right in the middle. It's not the best, not the worst, it's right in the middle. It's got strengths and weaknesses, but there's nothing there super deep or meaningful to talk about. This episode really didn't do anything for me, so that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.